Welcome, dear friend, to the quietest hour of the night. Welcome to the midnight scientists. There is no need to do anything now. No need to focus or concentrate. Simply allow my voice to be a gentle current in the peaceful ocean of your room. Tonight, we will drift together into a place of wonder, a place of soft mystery. We are going to explore something truly extraordinary, something so strange, so deeply mind-bending, and yet so quiet, so peaceful, that it might just cradle your thoughts as you float towards slumber. And if your mind chooses to stay awake for a little while longer, that's perfectly fine. You will have something fascinating and beautiful to hold, a gentle curiosity to accompany you as you wait for sleep to find you. Tonight's journey is called the illusion of reality, and together we will float gently through the wondrous and often bewildering ways your brain creates the world around you. Because the truth, the soft and gentle truth, is that you are not directly experiencing reality itself. You are experiencing a beautifully orchestrated dream of it, a masterpiece woven together by your senses, your memories, your quiet expectations, and a generous sparkling dust of creative guesswork. We will not be falling down any jarring rabbit holes tonight. Instead, imagine us drifting slowly down a gentle winding river, just far enough to marvel at the strange and wonderful artist that lives between your ears. And if, somewhere along this gentle current, your eyes begin to feel heavy, and your thoughts begin to blur at the edges, like watercolor paint on wet paper, then you are in exactly the right place. You are doing everything perfectly. So if you feel comfortable doing so, allow your eyes to close. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air as a cool, calming presence. And as you exhale, feel your body growing heavier, sinking softly into the surface beneath you. Let go of the day. Let go of all that is outside this room. Let's begin. Your brain is not a camera. It is not a perfect high-resolution recorder capturing a flawless image of the world. It is something far more magical, far more creative. It is a master storyteller. It builds a convincing, seamless, and beautiful illusion of reality using whatever delicate scraps of sensory information it can gather. And then, with the quiet confidence of an artist, it fills in the rest with educated guesses, echoes of old memories, and just a touch of starlight imagination. Every single second of your waking life, your brain is carefully constructing a model of what it believes is happening out there in the world. But here is the gentle secret. That model is not the world itself. It is a simulation. A breathtakingly convincing one, yes, but a simulation nonetheless. You are living inside a reality generated by your own mind, a virtual world tailored specifically and lovingly for you. Think of your senses, your sight, your hearing, your touch, as soft cables of light feeding electrical signals into the quiet, vast space of your mind. But those signals are just whispers, meaningless without interpretation. The real magic, the creative act, is what your brain does with those signals after they arrive. It decodes, it filters, it reinterprets, it compares, and it predicts. And most of the time, in the quiet spaces where data is missing, it simply invents. It fills in the gaps with what it expects to be there, and it does so with such grace that you never notice the seams. Let us drift into the world of vision, for example. When light enters your eyes, it is transformed into electrical signals. These signals travel like a gentle river along the optic nerve to the back of your brain, to a region called the visual cortex. And it is there that your brain begins to paint the picture of your world, piecing together shape and color and distance and motion.
But here is a curious little secret of this process. Your eyes, these beautiful windows to the world, each have a blind spot, a tiny area where the optic nerve connects, an area with no light-detecting cells at all. You are literally missing a piece of the world, right in your field of view at all times. And yet, you do not see a dark hole floating in your vision, do you? Of course not. That's because your brain, the silent artist, simply paints over the gap. It uses the nearby colors and patterns, and it seamlessly, effortlessly fills it in. It makes a gentle guess, and you never, ever notice the difference. This creative guesswork extends far beyond the blind spot. Your brain is constantly living just a fraction of a second in the future, anticipating what should be there. Some neuroscientists believe that your vision is mostly prediction. Your brain sends its expectations down to your senses, like a whisper of what to look for. And only when the incoming light doesn't match the prediction does your brain pause and gently correct itself. This remarkable system, called predictive coding, is what allows you to navigate the world so smoothly, even when what you see is blurry or dark or incomplete. Imagine yourself walking into your kitchen in the middle of the night. It's dark. You can barely see a thing, but you still know where the counter is. You know where the refrigerator should be. You know without thinking how far the floor is beneath your feet. You do not need perfect vision. Your brain simply fills in the missing details, painting a picture from memory and context. It assumes, with quiet confidence, and guides you safely through the dark. This is why optical illusions are so wonderfully unsettling. They gently pull back the curtain and reveal the predictive machinery at work. They are not tricks of the eye, but tricks of the mind. They show you the stories your brain is willing to believe, even when the evidence suggests otherwise. In the rotating mask illusion, your brain insists that a hollow face is a convex one, because it is so deeply wired to expect faces to bulge outward. When the data from your eyes conflicts with this deep expectation, the expectation wins. Your brain would rather be confidently wrong than admit it doesn't know what it's seeing. And it is not just vision. All of your senses rely on your brain's remarkable ability to interpret imperfect information. The sounds around you, for example, are just vibrations in the air, changes in pressure. Your ears detect these vibrations, and your brain transforms them into the sound of gentle rain, or distant laughter, or the soft rhythm of your own breathing. But again, this is interpretation. Your brain uses timing and location and past experience to decide what you are hearing. Perhaps you've experienced the curious phenomenon of phantom phone vibration. That moment when you feel a buzz in your pocket only to discover your phone was still and silent? That is your brain, the masterful predictor, filling in a sensation it expected to feel, even when the signal never arrived. It predicted a vibration, and for a fleeting moment, that prediction became your reality. This same predictive magic helps you move through the world so gracefully. Your brain builds a forward model, predicting what it should feel like to take a step, to shift your weight, to reach for a glass of water. It doesn't wait for your senses to confirm every tiny movement. It trusts its own simulation, allowing you to walk with a fluid grace rather than the hesitant, jerky movements of a machine. Of course, this system isn't perfect. Sometimes the brain gets it delightfully, harmlessly wrong. In the famous rubber hand illusion, a person's real hand is hidden, while a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. When both hands are stroked with a brush at the same time, the brain faces a puzzle. It sees the stroking on the rubber hand, and it feels the stroking on the real hand. Its solution: it concludes they must be the same thing. And in a moment of quiet, neurological magic, many people begin to feel as if the rubber hand is their own. The brain updates its map of the body, adopting a new plastic limb without a moment's hesitation. All of this is made possible by your brain's extraordinary ability to filter. At any given moment, your senses are being showered with millions of bits of information. The hum of the lights, the feeling of the blanket against your skin, the faint scent of the night air. You consciously notice only a tiny, tiny fraction of it all. Your brain, like a wise and gentle librarian, quietly shelves what it deems irrelevant, so you can focus only on what matters. You are not experiencing everything. You are experiencing a highlight reel, carefully and lovingly curated just for you.
This idea that the world you experience is not the world itself, but a simulation generated by your brain might sound unsettling, but it is truly a marvel of efficiency. You don't need to process every photon of light, every vibration in the air. You just need a usable model, a story that is close enough to reality to keep you safe and functioning. And your brain is a brilliant artist, making it all feel seamless. It stitches together sight and sound and sensation with such ease that you rarely question it. It creates a sense of continuity, of presence, of a stable and predictable now. Did you know that it takes longer for sound to reach your brain than it does for light? Yet your brain, the great synchronizer, adjusts for this lag, making it seem as though they arrive at the exact same moment. This is why a tiny delay between the audio and video on a call can feel so deeply jarring. The illusion breaks. The mind's finely tuned orchestra hits a sour note, and for a moment, you are aware that you are not experiencing reality directly. You are experiencing a slightly broken version of it. But most of the time, your brain is so masterful at managing these illusions that you drift through life without ever noticing the seams. And that in itself is the point. A good illusionist never reveals the trick. The fact that reality feels so smooth, so solid, so intuitive is a testament to how beautifully the system works. So while it may be true that you are living in a kind of self-generated virtual reality, that doesn't make your experience any less real. After all, what is reality, if not what you perceive, what you think, and what you feel? Reality, in the end, is the story your brain tells itself. And if that idea doesn't send your mind gently tumbling towards dreams, it just might give it something lovely and wondrous to drift upon. Let us drift deeper now into the world of sight. Your eyes may be called the windows to the soul, but they are not simple windows to the world. If they were, you would receive a constant, unfiltered stream of your surroundings. But what you actually see is far stranger, far more creative. What you see is a story told by your brain. Consider this. Every time your eyes move, and they move constantly, about 3 or 4 times every single second, you technically experience a moment of blindness. These rapid movements, called saccades, are so fast that the image on your retina becomes a useless blur. But you don't perceive a moment of darkness. You don't see a blur. Your brain, the masterful editor, quietly snips out the disruption and stitches your visual field back together again, seamlessly. You experience a continuous, flowing world because your brain fills in the gaps without ever needing to consult you. And speaking of gaps, let us return to that curious blind spot in each of your eyes, a literal hole in your vision. But you do not see a black hole. Your brain simply invents content to fill that space, borrowing the patterns, colors, and textures from the surrounding area. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't flag the invention as made up. It just quietly smooths over the wallpaper of your perception and carries on, maintaining the beautiful, unbroken illusion. This system is not designed for perfect accuracy. It is designed for usefulness, and context is its favorite tool. Take the perception of color. You might think an apple is red and grass is green, but your perception of color is always relative. It depends on the light, on surrounding colors, and on your brain's expectations. A shadow falling across a red apple doesn't make you think the apple has changed color. Your brain automatically corrects for the shadow. This is what made The Dress so famous online. Some saw it as white and gold, others as blue and black. The image was the same, but different brains were making different assumptions about the lighting, and so they painted the dress in different colors. Each brain was telling a different but equally valid story. Let's talk about faces. Your brain is a face-detecting machine. You are so exquisitely wired to recognize faces that you see them everywhere. In the clouds, in the patterns of wood grain, in the front of a car. This is called pareidolia, a testament to how deeply social your brain truly is. There is even a special area, the fusiform face area, that lights up with activity whenever you see something that even remotely resembles a face. That is why an emoji, just a few punctuation marks, can convey so much emotion. Your brain is eager to see a face, eager to connect.
And in low light, when the information coming from your eyes is vague and uncertain, your brain leans even more heavily on prediction. That is when a coat hanging on a door can momentarily look like a lurking figure. That is when shadows seem to shift and move just at the edge of your vision. Your brain is trying to make sense of ambiguous signals, and in uncertain situations, it wisely errs on the side of caution. Its evolution's whisper, saying it is better to mistake a stick for a snake than the other way around. And then there is change blindness. A change can happen in plain sight, but if your attention is elsewhere, you will fail to notice it. Your brain assumes the world is stable, and unless you are actively focusing on a particular detail, it doesn't bother to update its model. Attention is the spotlight, and you only consciously perceive what falls within its beam. Everything else is just gentle peripheral scenery, processed quietly or ignored entirely. Your brain filters out the noise, highlights what it believes is the signal, and keeps the beautiful show of reality running smoothly. So while it may sound as though your visual experience is a patchwork of guesses and illusions, it is important to remember just how brilliant your brain is at what it does. Most of the time, it gets things very, very right. You catch a ball without thinking. You recognize a friend in a crowd. But the illusions, the quirks, the blind spots, they are not flaws. They are windows into the machinery behind the curtain. They show you how much of what you see is shaped not by the world outside, but by the magnificent artist within. Now, allow your awareness to drift from sight to sound. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and just listen. Listen to the world around you. Perhaps you hear the gentle hum of electronics, or the distant murmur of the city, or the soft, rhythmic sound of your own breathing. It feels so simple, so effortless, as if your ears are just open windows letting the sounds of the world drift in. But just like with sight, what you hear is not the raw truth. It is a story, polished with context and colored by memory. Sound is just vibrations in the air, ripples of pressure. Your brain takes these simple vibrations and transforms them into a rich world of meaning. It doesn't just hear sounds, it guesses what they mean. It fills in gaps. It smooths over disruptions. And sometimes it even creates sounds that were never there in the first place. Think of speech. In a normal conversation, there are no neat pauses between words. It is just a flowing stream of sound. Yet your brain slices that stream into distinct words and even anticipates what is likely to come next. This is why you can understand someone speaking through static on a phone line. Your brain is predicting, filling in the blanks. In the phonemic restoration effect, if a brief sound in a word is replaced by a cough, your brain simply fills in the missing piece. You don't just not notice the missing sound, you perceive it as if it were always there. The illusion is perfect. And hearing is not done with the ears alone. The McGurk effect is a playful reminder of this. If you watch a video of a person saying the syllable ga, but the audio you hear is ba, your brain is faced with a conflict. What do most people perceive? Neither. They hear da, a fusion, a compromise between what was seen and what was heard. Your brain chooses a coherent story over a fragmented reality, even if that story is an illusion. Music shows how sound can stir the deepest parts of your being. Your brain doesn't just hear music, it anticipates it. It predicts the next note, the next chord. And when the music surprises you in a pleasant way, Your brain rewards you with a little rush of pleasure. That is why a beautiful chord change can give you goosebumps. It's a delightful violation of your expectations. Music can change your heart rate, influence your breathing, and shift the entire mood of your inner world. And then there is your name. It has a special status in your brain's hierarchy of sound. Even in a loud, crowded room, if someone speaks your name, it cuts through the noise like a beacon. This is the cocktail party effect. Your brain is always monitoring the background noise for personally relevant information, even when you aren't consciously paying attention. It keeps one ear open, always listening for the whisper of your own story. This filtering is crucial. Without it, you would be overwhelmed. Every tick, every hum, every rustle would scream for your attention. So, your auditory system sorts through the clutter, highlighting what matters and muting the rest. At the quiet end of the spectrum are the sounds designed to soothe. The gentle rhythm of rain, the soft hum of white noise, a slow, steady heartbeat. These sounds tap into your brain's ability to relax when the environment feels safe and predictable. They slow your own heart rate, deepen your breathing, and help your nervous system wind down. It is why a quiet, repetitive lullaby can be so deeply calming, cradling the edges of your awareness as you drift.
And just as with vision, your brain can also hallucinate sound. In moments of deep quiet or fatigue, you might hear a phantom phone buzz or think someone called your name when they didn't. This is not a sign of madness. It is a sign that your brain, the ever-active artist, doesn't like a vacuum. In the absence of clear input, it sometimes starts generating its own content. It anticipates, and sometimes it overachieves. So when you hear a sound, you are not just receiving vibrations, you are decoding a rich stream of meaning. Your ears deliver the signal, but it is your brain that brings the music to life. Let us drift now from the outer world to the inner world, to the sense of touch. It is a sense we often take for granted, a quiet, constant companion. But beneath that quiet familiarity is a profoundly complex and surprisingly emotional system. Touch is not just about pressure and temperature. It is about connection, awareness, and the subtle ways your body maps itself onto the world. Your skin, your body's largest organ, is packed with receptors that pick up a universe of signals: pressure, vibration, temperature, pain. But the brain doesn't just register what is touching you, but how and why. The context and emotional meaning of a touch can dramatically shape how it feels. A reassuring hand on the shoulder can ease anxiety. A gentle hug can release a cascade of calming hormones. Slow, gentle touch activates a special class of nerve fibers that send signals directly to the emotional centers of your brain. Your brain treats a loving touch as an emotional event, not just a physical one. We are wired to need it. It is one of our primal, most fundamental languages. And then there is the curious and magical sense of proprioception, your body's quiet ability to know where it is in space. You can touch your nose with your eyes closed. You can walk without staring at your feet. That is proprioception at work. It is often called the sixth sense, an invisible, seamless awareness that comes from sensors in your muscles and joints constantly whispering to your brain about the position and movement of your limbs. Without it, the simplest tasks would feel like piloting a complex foreign machine. It is a reminder of how much of our sense of self depends on signals we never consciously notice. Taste and smell are the most intimate of all the senses. They require a substance to literally enter your body. They're direct, immediate, and deeply tied to memory and emotion. Most of what you think of as flavor actually comes from smell. When you eat, molecules travel up to your nose, which is why food tastes so bland when you have a cold. The olfactory system, your sense of smell, has a direct, unfiltered pathway to the memory and emotion centers of your brain. That is why a certain scent of old books or baking bread or a specific perfume can transport you instantly back in time to a person, a place, a feeling. Smell is a key to a locked room in your memory. And finally, there is the most inward-looking sense of all, interoception. This is your brain's ability to sense the internal state of your body. Hunger, thirst, your heartbeat, your breathing. These signals keep your body's internal machinery running smoothly, but they also form the very foundation of your emotional life. The fluttering in your stomach when you're nervous, the tightness in your chest when you're anxious, the warm glow of contentment after a good meal. Some scientists believe that emotions are, at their core, your brain's attempt to make sense of these internal bodily sensations. Interoception is deeply tied to self-awareness. It is the quiet, constant conversation between your body and your mind. And like all the other senses, these are also subject to the brain's creative interpretations. Consider phantom limb pain. When a person loses a limb, they often continue to feel it, sometimes painfully. This is not a trick. The brain's map of the body still includes that missing limb. The sensation feels completely real because, in a neurological sense, it is real. It exists in the brain's model of the body, even if the physical part is gone. Your brain can be gently retrained through things like mirror therapy to update its model. This remarkable flexibility, this neuroplasticity, is what makes all sensory perception so fascinating. Your experience of the world is not fixed. It adapts, it adjusts, it evolves. It is a quiet kind of magic, and it is happening every single moment you are alive. Let us float now into the misty landscape of memory. Memory, contrary to popular belief, is not a library of perfectly preserved books. It's more like a busy, creative kitchen where your brain is constantly improvising, whipping up a story of your past using whatever ingredients are on hand. Your brain isn't retrieving a perfect record. It's reconstructing, remixing, and reseasoning your experiences every time you remember them. And strangely, wonderfully, the very act of remembering something can change the memory itself. This is not a flaw, it is a feature. Your memory is not designed for perfect accuracy, it is designed for usefulness. It helps you learn from the past, predict the future, and tell a coherent story about who you are. When you recall a memory, your brain reactivates the network of neurons associated with it, essentially recreating it. And each time, you might subtly change it. You forget a detail or add one that feels right. You emphasize one part and downplay another. The next time you recall that event, you're not remembering the original moment. You're remembering the last time you remembered it.
This is why memories are so slippery, so malleable. Studies have shown how easy it is to gently implant false memories. In one famous experiment, researchers were able to convince people they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, a completely fabricated event. The participants didn't just agree, they began to describe it with rich sensory detail. They weren't lying. Their brains, given a plausible suggestion, simply created a new story and adopted it as truth. Strong emotions can sear memories into our minds. You likely remember where you were during a major life event. These are called flashbulb memories, and they feel exceptionally vivid and accurate. But even these are prone to distortion over time. The core emotion remains, but the details shift and change with each retelling. Your memory saves what matters to your personal story, not necessarily what happened moment by moment. Your memory is also shaped by what you already believe about yourself. If you see yourself as a shy person, you will more easily recall events that support that story and forget the times you were bold. Your memory is deeply tied to your identity. You are, in a very real sense, the story you tell yourself about your past. That story gives you a sense of continuity, a thread connecting the person you were to the person you are now. And your brain, craving consistency, prefers to preserve the story over the raw, messy data. Consider your earliest childhood memories. Many of us have vivid recollections from when we were toddlers, but research suggests that most of these are not true memories. They are reconstructions built from old photographs, family stories, and repeated retellings. The line between lived experience and secondhand story blurs until your brain adopts the tale as its own. And yet, for all its quirks, memory is what allows you to build a life. And fascinatingly, it is also what allows you to imagine the future. When you think about what you will do next week, you are using the same parts of your brain that you used to recall the past. Memory, it seems, evolved not just to help you reminisce, but to help you plan. Your brain uses fragments of your past as raw material to construct simulations of possible futures. So, your memory is not a flawless archive. It is a living, breathing narrative stitched together with emotion, filtered through belief, and polished by the gentle passage of time. It is not a perfect record of what happened. It is a beautiful reflection of what matters. And in the end, perhaps that is what makes it so wonderfully, so perfectly human. If you have ever caught yourself wondering, who am I really? Then you have stumbled upon one of the oldest and trickiest questions the human mind has ever asked itself. The idea of the self feels so solid, so continuous. But if you look closely, that solid self begins to feel more like a beautiful illusion, a story the brain tells itself. There is no single spot in your brain that is the center of the self. Instead, your sense of I emerges from a messy, brilliant collaboration of countless different processes. Vision, language, emotion, memory, decision-making, all working together. The most dramatic illustration of this comes from split brain patients, whose two brain hemispheres can no longer communicate. The left hemisphere, the seat of language, is a master storyteller. When the right hemisphere performs an action that the left hemisphere doesn't know the reason for, the left hemisphere simply invents a plausible story to explain it. It is not lying. It is just doing what the brain always does, creating a coherent narrative from incomplete information. This suggests a provocative idea, that your conscious mind may not be the author of your actions, but rather the narrator, explaining them after the fact. Your brain decides, and then your conscious self takes the credit. This doesn't mean you are a puppet. It's more that your conscious self is like a rider on a great gentle elephant. You can influence and guide,
but much of the movement comes from the vast, unconscious wisdom of the elephant below. Your sense of continuity, the feeling that you are the same person you were 10 years ago, is also a story. In reality, you have changed profoundly. Your brain has rewired itself, but your internal narrator bridges the gap, creating the illusion of a stable, unchanging self. Some philosophers and neuroscientists argue there is no single, unified self at all, just a stream of sensations, thoughts, and feelings bundled together by memory. What we call I is a mosaic, a process, a verb, not a noun. And this fluidity is not a flaw. It is what allows you to grow, to adapt, to learn, and to reinvent yourself over and over again. You are not the same person you were yesterday. And that is not a failure of identity. That is the miracle of being alive.
And as we drift deeper, let us enter the private cinema of the mind, the world of dreams. Here you might find yourself flying over a purple ocean or talking to an old friend in a place you've never been. And somehow, none of it seems odd until you wake up. That is the wild magic of dreaming. Your brain creates entire worlds while you sleep, and you go along for the ride without question. During the stage of sleep known as REM, your brain becomes incredibly active, almost as active as when you are awake. But the parts of your brain responsible for logic and self-awareness go quiet, while the regions involved in emotion, memory, and visual imagery light up like a fireworks display. The result is a mental space where realism takes a backseat and emotional intensity takes the wheel. One theory suggests that dreams are your brain's attempt to make sense of random neural signals, weaving them into a story. It's improvisational theater with no script. Another theory proposes that dreams are a kind of virtual reality training ground, allowing you to safely rehearse responses to challenging situations. Whatever their purpose, dreams are deeply connected to memory consolidation, the process of sorting and strengthening the day's experiences. And then there is lucid dreaming, that magical moment when you become aware that you are dreaming while still inside the dream. In this state, the logical part of your brain seems to reboot, allowing some people to control the dream, to fly at will, to conjure new scenes. It is a glimpse into the brain's ability to be both the dreamer and the one who is aware of the dream. Sleep paralysis is another glimpse behind the curtain, when you wake up mentally, but your body remains in the temporary paralysis of REM sleep. It can be a frightening experience, often accompanied by dream-like hallucinations, as the boundary between the dreaming world and the waking world momentarily dissolves. It is a glitch in the transition, a reminder of how finely balanced the states of consciousness truly are. Most dreams are forgotten within minutes of waking, but they leave behind a feeling, an echo. They remind us that reality, as the brain experiences it, is flexible. They blur the line between fact and fiction, memory and imagination. The dreaming brain is not separate from your waking self. It is another mode of operation, one that is rich, imaginative, and strangely honest. And somewhere deep inside, while your conscious mind rests, your sleeping brain continues its quiet, surreal, nocturnal storytelling, one dream at a time. And what of consciousness itself? It is the great final mystery. It is the voice in your head, the awareness behind your eyes, the feeling of being alive. We all know it intimately, yet it is almost impossible to define.
Scientists call the question of why all this brain activity feels like something the hard problem of consciousness. Why is there an inner world at all? Your brain is a 3-pound lump of tissue running on electricity and chemistry, and yet from that biological machine emerges a mind that can reflect, imagine, enjoy a sunset, and wonder about its own existence. It is as if your brain is playing a movie that only you can see, and no one is quite sure how the projector works. Consciousness does not seem to reside in any one spot. It appears to emerge from the way different brain regions interact, like a symphony arising from the coordinated playing of many instruments. The global workspace theory suggests that consciousness is like a theater stage, where different subconscious processes compete for the spotlight. When a thought or sensation wins that competition, it is broadcast widely across the brain, and it becomes part of your conscious awareness. Other theories, like integrated information theory, propose that consciousness is an intrinsic property of any system that is both highly complex and highly unified. It is not something added to the system, it is the structure of the system itself. This raises the tantalizing possibility that consciousness is not limited to biological organisms, but could be a fundamental feature of the universe. But for all our theories, the experience itself remains private, subjective. No one else can enter your inner world, and perhaps that is the best way to think of it, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a wonder to be appreciated. Your consciousness is your constant, intimate companion. It is the canvas on which your entire life is painted, and right now, it is gently keeping you company as you drift deeper and deeper into rest.
As we continue to float on this quiet current, let us consider how this inner world engages with the inner worlds of others. Your brain is a natural-born social detective. It is constantly, effortlessly building mental models of the people around you, guessing their thoughts, their feelings, their intentions. This is your theory of mind, the recognition that others have perspectives different from your own. It is the foundation of empathy, of connection, of all human society. This social machinery is so active that it sometimes sees intention where there is none, a phenomenon called hyperactive agency detection. It's why we jump at a sudden noise in the dark or see faces in the clouds. Your brain would rather assume there is a mind, an agent at work, than to accept pure randomness. It is a bias towards meaning, towards story. Of course, this constant guesswork is prone to error. We fall into cognitive biases, little shortcuts and traps in our thinking. Confirmation bias makes us favor information that supports what we already believe. Hindsight bias makes us feel like we knew it all along after an event has passed. These are not flaws to be ashamed of. They are echoes of a brain built for survival, not for perfect logic. They are the charming, predictable quirks of the human mind. Recognizing them doesn't mean you can eliminate them, but it allows you to hold your own thoughts a little more lightly, with a little more grace, a little more humility. And in our quest for understanding, we often forget that our perception is just one tiny window onto a vast and varied universe. The biologist Jakob van Uxküll called this the Umwelt, the unique sensory world of each organism. A bat sees with sound. A dog lives in a world painted with scents we can't even imagine. A bee sees ultraviolet patterns on flowers, invisible to our eyes.
They all live on the same planet, but they inhabit profoundly different realities. Our experience is not the only one. It is just one beautiful, limited, human-sized story. And what of time? It seems so steady, so absolute. Yet inside your head, time is a construction. It stretches when you are bored and vanishes when you are engaged. It seems to fly by as you get older, as life fills with routine and fewer novel experiences are laid down in memory. A moment of intense fear can feel like it unfolds in slow motion as your brain ramps up its processing, capturing more detail. Time is not what the clock says. Time is what your brain feels. All of these illusions of sight, of self, of memory, of time are not deceptions. They are creations. They are the brushstrokes of the silent artist within, painting a world that is stable enough, meaningful enough, and beautiful enough to live in. We are meaning-making machines, constantly weaving stories to make sense of the world, to find our place within it. That search for meaning is not a distraction from reality. It is the very essence of our reality. And so here we are, at the end of our journey, floating in the quiet space between knowing and wondering. We have drifted through the intricate, beautiful illusions your mind creates. The understanding that your reality is a creation does not make the world feel less real. It makes it feel more wondrous. It invites curiosity, flexibility, and the gentle acceptance that not everything needs to be perfectly understood to be deeply felt. The illusion of reality is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The ever-shifting dance of perception and memory, consciousness and meaning is what gives your life its unique texture and depth. It is what allows you to marvel at the stars, to laugh with friends, and to find purpose in the quiet, ordinary moments. So as you rest here, as you let go and drift completely into sleep, perhaps let these quiet wonders float with you. Let them be gentle companions in your dreams. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight, drifting through the mysteries of the mind. If you enjoyed this journey and you feel so inclined, you might consider leaving a like or a comment when you next awake. I am always so curious to know where in the world you are listening from and what time it is in your part of the world as you drift off. For now, though, there is nothing left to do, nothing to think about, just the soft, gentle rhythm of your breathing carrying you into the deep, peaceful ocean of sleep. Sleep well, curious mind. Sleep well.